The concerns with vaccine delays, it seems like they're well behind schedule. What concerns do you have about that, if any?
Look, I'm still not sure exactly, once you get that first rollout done with the most vulnerable people in our society and the first responders, there's still a lot of people out there saying, I actually don't want to have this vaccine.
Yeah.
How many people, we've come quite comfortable, we've been done very well down here in Australia, how many people are actually going to line up to have the damn things?
So pretty much the end of week 4 of their rollout, this is pretty much where it's at. Now, the rollout is moving far too slowly, and all of a sudden 1,000 GPs to boost vaccination. But it looks like they've brought forward this phase due to the very slow rollout because the GP clinics are unprepared. Further on in the article, they said they didn't have the software to take bookings. They didn't know that vaccine rollout was happening at their practice. And the health minister said it was always planned announcement on Wednesday, appearing to contradict the reports from clinics. Well, you can choose who you want to believe, Greg Hunt or the GPs. And, of course, the customary contradictory doublespeak from Brendan Murphy. They're going to come online, but they don't have the vaccines. Well, what's the point of coming online if you can't deliver it? Now, this tactic of surprising the GPs with people turning up wanting to be jabbed could also to try and negate the actual resistance from GPs and wanting to give this thing. Now, as with Jackie Lambie being on Sky, who only make 1.8 to 2% of the population reach, she would never be allowed to say on Channel 9 today, show any mainstream media, The Project or ABC News, that there are people who are not going to take it, because their attitude, as we mentioned before, and we know, is that they've ordered vaccines for everybody, so in their minds there is no rejection, but she's stating that there is. And here's an article on news site Crikey, again that could never make it to mainstream media. A bit queasy, vaccine rollout hits more bumps as doctors fret about gag orders. And GPs told the Australian Financial Review, that's getting a bit of mainstream, but not quite fully mainstream, they got directives that they are not to raise concerns. Now that would apply, they've got the AstraZeneca vaccine, but that would be to any negative things about any of these COVID jabs. Now, these gag orders, this thing's a long time in the planning, goes back 2 years when they first changed the code of conduct so that they could, the regulator could gag the doctors. Now, this is just like the Biosecurity Act 2015. Imagine if they hadn't brought that in, and suddenly, just by complete surprise, we've got this supposed Spanish flu-like virus that we need to be able to control people on, lock them up, and be able to close down schools and everything. We need that legislative power. If they didn't have that, thank God they got that Biosecurity Act in. Well, it just goes to show that this is all planned, as we know. Now, one of the biggest problems for doctors is that order from the regulator not to mention the dangers of this COVID jab is that it goes against what they're meant to be doing under the Medical Code of Practice as far as informed consent goes, which is 4.51, providing information to patients in a way they can understand before asking for their consent. So a month in, this is the state of play as far as their vaccine rollout is concerned, and I don't think they're going to accelerate it through these medicos either. Putting the finishing touches on the statement concerning consent letter and also letter of demand that I'm going to produce for people to amend and use as they want. Now, I'm producing this letter in response to this.
The Australian Defence Force has been brought in to accelerate the rollout of the COVID jab.
In preparation for if they start to go around to either hubs or to people's homes and are given an order under that legislation that passed last year on the 8th of December where they have immunity from prosecution, civil and criminal, if they're using force when carrying out orders, and the orders are to jab you. When you look at the timeline of their rollout strategy, they're just way, way, way behind. I think they thought their Eagle has landed promotion and that they just keep talking it up in mainstream media about how safe it is and how excited everyone is. That marketing campaign, I think they believed that a lot more people would be taking this thing. Now, the forced jabbing of people under that legislation, they couldn't do it to the majority of the population. They wouldn't have the numbers, and it would just become so messy and unpalatable that they would have to abandon it. This change to the military law was only for, I think, intended for the what they label as, crazy anti-vaxxers, and they don't know what's good for them. Say maybe 5% or even less of the population, where they could get away with going around. Well, the numbers are lower, so they don't need as many resources. And if the majority of the population isn't affected, they could get away with it. So it's absolutely fantastic news and that things are going our way, that at this stage the whole rollout program is being stalled by people not turning up, not wanting to get it done, as Jackie Lambie said. Anyone you speak to, I was talking to a guy at the service station this morning, and he says anyone that comes, I speak to him regularly, anyone that comes in, no one is, and they talk about it, no one is getting this. This is like a public retail place, and he speaks to a lot of people. No one's intending on taking this thing. And I think a lot of that comes from, people doing good work, getting information out that the mainstream media aren't broadcasting, but also people just have a natural instinct of survival, and they just a natural distrust of government. So that's working in our favour as well. So as far as timing of finalising this letter, I'm actually falling behind myself, the same way the vaccine rollout is falling behind, just through, as like everyone else, I've got time pressures. And as I mentioned before, I want it to be the best that it possibly can be and most effective. But in no way will I not do it. It's going to be done, absolutely. I've got a bit more time, and certainly within the foreseeable future it will be done in the next week or two. But I think we can sit back, have a good weekend. It's Friday, enjoy a drink, time out. Look, the next part of the strategy is going to be the lockdowns and you can't go to the pub and all that. People are going to have to weather that storm. That's where we're going to be more proactive in getting information out. By that stage, I should have my letter out, and people can certainly put that out, get it out to the mainstream media, all the facts about this from the government about how this thing isn't even an emergency. That's all included in the letter as part of the brief of evidence that I'm putting together. Because I'm preparing it to be a standalone document that has all the information, all of the source data, so that it really spells out this whole scam and how it is a scam. I won't use the word scam. I'm just going to give people the information and they can make their own decisions on it. But all the information is going to be there. Now, I'm going to distribute this. I'm going to start printing it up. I'm going to start popping it into people's letterboxes. That's the distribution. I hope other people will do it as well. I also want to put it onto a USB along with other data. Now, the plan for distributing that is to just drop it into somebody's, just put a key tag on it, please watch. Hopefully people will watch, and then in the videos and that they can sort of copy it to their PC. Then that person, if they feel like it, it's totally up to them. The freedom is what we're all about. They can drop that into a letterbox a couple of streets away. So you get this total anonymous, not tracked on the media, people not watching our websites, distribution of the information that people aren't getting from mainstream media, but is from the source data, so they can then make, because that's another way we can then certainly another avenue of distribution of the truth about this thing and get the outcomes that we want, which is not to be jabbed and to not have Alan Joyce stopping us from flying, because that's going to be all included in it as well. It's a very comprehensive letter and supporting documentation. So please bear with me as far as the time it takes me to get it together. Like I said, I want it to be the best that it can be. So anyway, enjoy the weekend. We've got a bit of, this weekend's free with no lockdowns or anything. Just have a drink. Just feel good that things are going our way, and we've got time, and certainly myself and many other people are fighting back against this thing. And at this stage, I'd say we're winning, but the game isn't over. All right, that's it for this one.